If you can dance this, waltz. The billionaire's voice cut through the ballroom like a blade, sharp and merciless. Then I will marry my son to you. 60 of Boston's elite froze, their polite masks, hiding curiosity and anticipation, but Kesha Washington felt her world shatter. What they didn't know, though, was that she'd once been a champion. 3 weeks earlier, Boston's February chill bit at her knees as Kesha scrubbed a stubborn wine stain from the cold Italian marble of the Peton mansion. For hours in, muscles screaming, and the 37-room fortress of wealth loomed above her like a naturally beautiful, her face neutral, unreadable. In houses like this, servants who showed personality rarely lasted long. Kesha, Mrs. Hartford's sharp voice cut the silence. The head housekeeper stood at the top of the staircase, gray hair in a tight knot. Master Reginald wants the ballroom spotless by noon. The Vanderbilts are coming for dinner. The ballroom. That room held ghosts, memories of steps taken in joy long buried under dust and service. Kesha's reflection in the hallway mirrors betrayed a flicker of her younger self, radiant and alive, before the weight of reality returned. Meanwhile, Oliver Peton, 29, stood on the 52nd floor overlooking Boston Common. Tailored navy suit, hair perfectly styled, blue eyes hollow. Merger contracts lay untouched as snow dusted. The streets below. Valentine's Day. He couldn't remember the last time it meant anything. Another arranged meeting. Another woman who would smile at his bank account but never see his soul. Chandelier in the ballroom, her arms trembling but steady with muscle memory. Mirrors reflected a woman who had danced in grand halls, now invisible, scrubbing floors. But as she gathered her supplies, she caught a glimpse of Oliver standing in the doorway, his suit rumpled by the wind, eyes not empty, but sad. "Do you ever dance in here?" he asked, softly, shaking her core. "Every single day," she admitted. But she couldn't let him see the dreams she'd buried. "I should go, sir," she murmured. "Sir, that's a beautiful name." And just like that, she fled down the corridor, humming a waltz she hadn't heard in 7 years. That evening, the mansion's dining room buzzed with old money and stock portfolios. At the head of the table, Reginald Peton, 63, radiated ruthless authority. The Vanderbilts pressed Oliver toward a union with their daughter Catherine, blonde, beautiful, bred for this world. But Oliver's attention drifted, tightening his jaw as Catherine leaned close. He recognized the mask he himself wore every day. Reginald rose, theatrically. "I appreciate tradition, elegance, breeding. Take the waltz, for example, a dance of refinement not everyone can master. I propose a challenge." His eyes locked on Kesha. "You girl, come here." Every head turned. Kesha froze. The spotlight was unforgiving. "Do you believe in fairy tales?" Reginald asked, cruel satisfaction in his voice. Her heart sank as he laid out the terms. "Dance with my son for 3 minutes without embarrassing yourself, and I'll pay for your wedding to Oliver. Fail, and you vanish forever." Gasps, whispers, judgmental eyes. Kesha's instincts screamed to flee, but then Oliver stood. "I accept," he said, calm, defiant. His gaze met hers, and for the first time, she saw that she was worth fighting for. In her basement room that night, Kesha stared at her trembling hands. The music box from her grandmother tucked under her pillow. Waltz notes filled her mind, memories of being taught to trust her body, to dance with abandon. A knock startled her. Mrs. Hartford summoned her, time to face consequences. Meanwhile, Oliver faced his father. The newspaper sprawled across the desk. Peton Airs' shocking dinner party challenge. Reginald's sneer could not hide the fear creeping in. Kesha's choice loomed. Take the money, vanish, and survive, or reclaim her dignity and risk public humiliation. In the conservatory, sunlight streamed over orchids and ivy, illuminating her indecision. Oliver appeared, gentle, concerned. "Your father offered a year's salary, references, relocation. You could start fresh." She met his eyes, feeling both terror and exhilaration. "I want to dance," she whispered. Elena Vasquez and Marcus Chin awaited, former mentors and champions, bearing evidence to reclaim her stolen career. Preston Kingsley, the man who had destroyed her life, was gone, and truth could finally surface. Kesha's body remembered, her soul remembered. Marcus reminded her she had truth on her side. And the waltz, the blue Danube, The very piece that had once made Marcus weep would be her weapon. The afternoon sun lit the ballroom as Kesha prepared. Mirrors reflected not the maid, but the dancer she had always been. Warm-up clothes, music, and the sapphire dress of her debut awaited. Marcus's piano notes rose, and she moved, her body fluid, her grace unstoppable, reclaiming every moment lost to corruption and fear. Oliver learned to lead, his hands steady, supporting her leaps and dips, finding rhythm together. As the evening arrived, Boston's elite filled the ballroom. Margaret Kingsley, Preston's widow, and other adversaries watched, anticipating her fall. Kesha's heart pounded, but she drew on every lesson, every memory, every ounce of courage. She chose to dance for herself, for her grandmother, for Oliver, for every stolen dream. Hand in hand, they stepped onto the raised platform. 3 minutes of truth, of artistry, of pure reclamation. The orchestra began. Kesha's body moved with remembered perfection, each step, each turn, each lift telling her story. Oliver framed her, caught her, celebrated her brilliance without overshadowing it. The audience gasped, forgetting prejudice, expectations, class. Margaret Kingsley's scorn faltered. Reginald's satisfaction cracked, disbelief replacing cruelty. Kesha danced, radiant, fearless, reclaiming not just her talent, but her life. Applause erupted, thunderous and genuine. Elena and Marcus wept. Mrs. Hartford beamed. Oliver held her close. Truth had triumphed. Then Elena revealed the full story, Preston's bribes, the destruction of Kesha's career, and the evidence now public. The ballroom collectively exhaled, Boston's old order shaken. Reginald, defeated, could only concede. If my son wishes to throw away his birthright for a servant, I won't stand in his way. She's not a servant, Oliver said, quiet but unyielding. She's an artist. She's going to be my wife. Kesha, tears streaming, accepted, and the room erupted in celebration. Doors opened to new opportunities, principal roles, teaching, and recognition she had long been denied. 6 months later, Kesha took the stage at Lincoln Center. Her debut with the New York Contemporary Ballet. 3,000 eyes witnessed the woman she had become, strong, radiant, a dancer reborn. Oliver, in the front row, beamed with pride and love. The music soared. She danced for her past, for her mentors, for the girl who once twirled in a tiny apartment believing in magic, and for herself. Sometimes, if you leap with courage, the universe catches you. And sometimes, fairy tales, real ones, just wait for the right moment to unfold. If this story moved you, share your thoughts. What would you have done in Kesha's shoes? Comment below and tell us whether you believe in fighting for your dreams, no matter the stakes. After that night, Boston felt different, almost surreal, as if the snow itself had shifted in reverence. Kesha couldn't sleep for days. The adrenaline, the thrill, the fear, and the triumph all tangled into a storm inside her chest. Oliver, meanwhile, had retreated to the quiet of his office, letting the aftershocks of rebellion and defiance settle. But every thought circled back to her courage, her light, the way she had reclaimed something that had been stolen for 7 long years. It wasn't just about the dance anymore. That waltz had broken more than societal expectation. It had cracked the rigid glass of the Peton Empire. Reginald, once untouchable, now moved through the city with whispered scorn trailing him like a shadow. Social invitations thinned, business deals cooled. The empire built on intimidation and fear began to wobble, its foundation shaken not by money or litigation, but by someone refusing to stay invisible. Kesha, meanwhile, found herself walking through Boston with a strange mix of pride and disbelief. People she'd worked alongside for years, maids, butlers, cooks, looked at her differently now, not as a ghost in the house, but as someone alive, powerful, unstoppable. Even the smallest gestures, a nod from Mrs. Hartford, a wink from a fellow servant, felt like victories, tiny confirmations that her existence mattered beyond the floorboards she had polished. Oliver had changed too. That same empty, measured man who wandered through life like a ghost now smiled genuinely, laughed freely, and, most importantly, fought for what mattered. He had stood against his father, against every expectation, and in doing so, had chosen authenticity over wealth, love over legacy. When he met Kesha's eyes, there was no pretense, no calculation, only connection, raw and unfiltered. Then came the letters, the calls, the messages, offers Kesha had never dared to dream of. The Cambridge Academy wanted her back, not as a student, but as a teacher, a mentor. Studios in New York and Los Angeles requested her portfolio. She had been invisible for so long, and suddenly the world seemed to be offering her every opportunity she had once been denied. Marcus and Elena orchestrated her return to dance, guiding her every step, helping her reclaim muscle memory, technique, and confidence. Each movement reminded her, talent doesn't die. It waits. Rehearsals became rituals of revival. The studio smelled of rosin and polished wood, music flowing through every corner, and Kesha's body remembered before her mind could protest. Spins, leaps, balances, they were no longer exercises, they were declarations. And through it all, Oliver stood by her side, not as a teacher, not as a patron, but as a partner in life, silently steadying her, supporting without overshadowing. Every glance, every touch, every step together reminded her that trust and love could coexist with ambition. Finally, the night arrived, the professional debut she had been denied 7 years ago. The David H. Coe Theater hummed with expectation, 3,000 eyes waiting, some skeptical, some hopeful, all unaware of the storm she had survived to get there. Kesha peered through the curtains and felt a flash of the girl she used to be, the girl who twirled in a tiny apartment imagining applause. That child's heartbeat matched her own now, steady, alive, ready. When the music began, she stepped into the spotlight, letting the years of silence, fear, and resilience pour into every gesture. The audience didn't just see her movements. They felt the story, the struggle, the redemption. She danced for her grandmother's music box, for Elena and Marcus who had never stopped believing, for Mrs. Hartford's unwavering guardianship, for Oliver's courage, and most importantly, for herself. Every turn, every lift, every extension carried a piece of her soul, raw and brilliant, for all to see. By the final note, the theater erupted. Applause thundered, rising and falling like waves. People stood, many with tears in their eyes, swept away by the transformation of a woman who had been broken and rebuilt. Kesha stood center stage, chest heaving, eyes shimmering with triumph. She was whole, unapologetic, and unstoppable. Oliver rushed to her side afterward, catching her hands, kissing them gently, their smiles reflecting the joy of 2 lives reclaimed from fear and expectation. Months passed. Kesha's career flourished, each performance building on the one before. Oliver left the weight of the Peton legacy behind, pursuing teaching, connecting with children, and discovering the joy of living for himself rather than others. Together, they built a life not of wealth or social standing, but of authenticity, love, and artistry. And Boston remembered. The whispers of the dinner party challenge became legend. Reginald's empire, shaken but intact, never forgot the lesson. Power without empathy is fragile, and brilliance can emerge from places even the elite would overlook. The city's social circles shifted subtly, as the story of a maid turned ballerina reminded everyone that courage, talent, and determination could rewrite destinies. For Kesha and Oliver, the story wasn't over. It had just begun. Every day was a new dance, a new challenge, a reminder that the world could try to dictate who they were, but only they could choose who they would become. And sometimes, when the music plays, when the stage is set, and when fear threatens to take hold, it's worth remembering. Leap anyway, because the universe sometimes catches even the most impossible dreams. The stage lights dimmed, but the promise of possibility remained. And somewhere in Boston, the echoes of a waltz reminded everyone listening that the boldest choices, the riskiest leaps, often lead to the most extraordinary lives. Would you have had the courage to step onto that platform, knowing everything was at stake? Share your thoughts. Where would you draw the line between safety and daring?